I swear. If the shaders now have to be reinstalled, then I swear I'm just going to post this episode on my YouTube channel with just me doing more dramatic readings. Let's be aware of the photosensitivity warning, and hello! Welcome back to my channel, or welcome for the first time to my channel, Lady T. My name is Nathalie and today we are going to play Dragon Age Veilguard. It's going to be a little... it's loading anyway, so I can do my whole spiel. I am new-ish to these kinds of games. I started with Baldur's Gate 3 again this last year for you, because I'm going to upload it once I'm a couple hours in, so that hopefully nobody can spoil too much for me. Maybe I'm even just going to upload it after I finish the game, because sometimes people can get very excited about the game and accidentally spoil it, and I kind of don't want that to happen. Not that my channel draws that many viewers, but that's okay. So yeah, we are going to play Veilguard. I know that there... well, let me start it over. Let me actually phrase that a little bit differently. With Baldur's Gate, I picked it up because I saw a lot of TikToks about Astarion, the vampire. And I was like, well, maybe I would like to romance him, to romance that game. That's the only reason why I got that game. And because I like Dungeons and Dragons, so I was like, I can see myself liking that. But since I was 12, I've been playing a lot of cozy games. Before that, I played a lot of Tomb Raider, I played Prince of Persia, I played Rayman, of course, Crash Bandicoot, Sly Raccoon, Ratchet & Clank, those sorts of games. And then I fell, when I was 12, into the whole cozy game genre with The Sims and Animal Crossing and stuff like that. And the last year-ish, last 2 years, I've been kind of wanting to go back into the games that I used to love a lot. And Baldur's Gate, this is taking a very, very long time. How many shaders do we need? I hope that's not going to happen all the time. Sorry, it's a talking intro, isn't it? It is. I'm just going to cut it out for you, in case this is going to take a very long time. So you don't have to watch this screen the whole time through. I might even zoom in a little bit. I'm sorry if you have to see me up close. Where was I even? I get distracted a lot. You will notice if you watch a couple more videos. But yeah, so Veilguard came out. I think I haven't seen that many TikToks of it. Well, they keep popping up, which is why I got the game eventually. But I'm kind of glad about that, because a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 got spoiled for me. And that was my own fault, because I kept clicking on it, I kept watching the videos that were made, and I kept looking up information. And I started that whole playthrough wrong. So what I'm doing with this playthrough is not looking up anything. The only thing I know about Veilguard is Lucanus, if I even pronounce his name correctly. And I only know that he exists. Like, I don't know much else about him. And Emmerich. So 2 dudes who I think you can romance, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe they are just random townspeople. I don't know. So that's also why I am not planning to put these videos up before I'm further into the game. Because I really want this playthrough for me to be unspoiled as much as I can. And that also means taming myself down a little bit, because I know how enthusiastic I can get and how many secrets I want to know of. But also, as I mentioned before, I'm sorry, this is going all over the place. With the cozy games I used to play, there isn't that much at stake, so I have to learn how to play these games again, so don't expect me to do well. That's just what I want to say, and now I'll bring you back once these damn shaders are finally in place. At 10%, and yes, I'm watching TikToks. Don't spoil Dragon Age for me. I'm almost tempted to just video Let's take screenshots of the TikToks watching and just show you those. I almost want to start singing as well. We all know I'm going to cut that out. Love this music. Now that I have to wait so long, it's really tempting to just look up some stuff about Dragon Age. This is how much I'm failing already. Oh, I can do this. I could also paint my nails. But then I have to take them off decisions. My patience is getting tested. Ew. Oh, that's a lot. Hey. Thank you. Of course we are good. I don't know even if you can hear it. But we are definitely playing this on easy mode because there's no way I'm going to get through this game if we don't. That's actually a good date idea, you know? Giving each other a budget and just going into a bookstore. 1 minute of browsing and then 5 minutes of browsing and then you get a minute or a minute and a half. Maybe I should give you a dramatic reading. Actually, wait. Let's not destroy the place. Look. Can you see it? I hope you get let me There we go. Inkart by Cornelia Funke. One of the best books ever written. I'm going to read you something because we're only at 1/3 of the loading of the shaders. Look, I have notes from. Can you even see it? I think you can. From people I worked with. Not anymore, but I used to, and they made little doodles for me. Well, not specifically always. Sometimes I stole them. We put them in the book, but we're going to start. Chapter 1. A Stranger in the Night. The moon shone in the rocking horse's eye, and in the mouse's eye too, when Tolly fetched it out from under his pillow to see. The clock went tick-tock, and in the stillness he thought he heard little bare feet running across the floor. Then laughter and whispering, and a sound like the pages of a big book being turned over. It was a quote, by the way, that was not the actual book. It was by L.M. Boston of The Children of Green Know. Now the book starts. Rain fell that night. A fine, whispering rain. Many years later, Maggie had only to close her eyes and she could still hear it, like tiny fingers stepping on the window pane. A dog barked somewhere in the darkness, and however often she tossed and turned, Maggie couldn't get to sleep. The book she had been reading was under her pillow, pressing its cover against her ear as if to lure her back into its printed pages. I'm sure it must be very comfortable sleeping with a hard, rectangular thing like that under your head, her father had teased, the first time he found a book under her pillow. Go on, admit it. The book whispers its story to you at night. Sometimes, yes, Maggie had said, but it only works for children, which made Mo tweak her nose. Mo. Maggie had never called her father anything else. That night, when so much began and so many things changed forever, Maggie had one of her favourite books under her pillow, and since the rain wouldn't let her sleep, she sat up, rubbed the drowsiness from her eyes and took it out. Its pages rustled promisingly when she opened it. Maggie thought this first whisper sounded a little different from one book to another, depending on whether or not she already knew the story it was going to tell her. Sorry, quick burp break. But she needed light. She had a box of matches hidden in the drawer of her bedside table. Mo had forbidden her to light candles at night. I should be forbidden to light candles at night. You have no idea how many times I've almost set the house on fire. He didn't like fire. My husband doesn't either. Fire devours books, he always said. But she was 12 years old. She could surely be trusted to keep an eye on a couple of candle flames. I can't even do it at 29 years old. Maggie loved to read by candlelight. She had 5 candlesticks on the windowsill, and she was just holding the lighted match to one of the black wicks when she heard footsteps outside. She blew out the match in alarm. Oh, how well she remembered it, even many years later, and knelt to look out of the window, which was wet with rain. It wasn't wet with something else. Then she saw him. The rain cast a kind of pallor on the darkness, and the stranger was little more than a shadow. Only his face gleamed white as he looked up at Maggie. His hair clung to his wet forehead. The rain was falling on him, but he ignored it. He stood there motionless, arms crossed over his chest as if that might at least warm him a little, and he kept on staring at the house. I must go and wake Mo, thought Maggie, but she stayed put, her heart thudding, and went on gazing out into the night, as if the stranger's stillness had infected her. Suddenly, he turned his head, and Maggie felt as if he were looking straight into her eyes. She shot off the bed so fast the open book fell to the floor, and she ran barefoot out into the dark corridor. This was the end of May, but it was chilly in the old house. There was still a light on in Mo's room. He often stayed up reading late into the night. Maggie had inherited her love of books from her father. When she took refuge from a bad dream with him, nothing could lull her to sleep better than Mo's calm breathing beside her and the sound of the pages turning. Nothing chased nightmares away faster than the rustle of printed paper. But the figure outside the house was no dream. The book Mo was reading that night was bound in pale blue linen. Later, Maggie remembered that too. But unimportant little details stick in the memory. Mo, there's someone out in the yard. Her father raised his head and looked at her with the usual absent expression he wore when she interrupted his reading. It always took him a few moments to find his way out of that other world, the labyrinth of printed letters. Someone out in the yard? Are you sure? Yes, he's staring at our house. Mo put his book down. So, what were you reading before you went to sleep? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Maggie frowned. Please, Mo, come and look. He didn't believe her, but he went anyway. Maggie tugged him along the corridor so impatiently that he stubbed his toe on a pile of books, which was hardly surprising. Stacks of books were piled high all over the house, not just arranged in neat rows on bookshelves, the way other people kept them. Oh no, the books in Mo and Maggie's house were stacked on the tables, on chairs, in the corners of the rooms. There were books in the kitchen and books in the lavatory, books on the TV sets and in the wardrobe, small piles of books, tall piles of books, books thick and thin, books old and new. They welcomed Maggie down to breakfast with invitingly opened pages. They kept boredom at bay when the weather was bad, as sometimes she fell over them. He's just standing there, whispered Maggie, leading Mo into her room. Has he got a hairy face? If so, he could be a werewolf. Oh, stop it! Maggie looked at him sternly, although his jokes made her feel less scared. Already she hardly believed any more in the figure standing in the rain, until she knelt down again at the window. There! Do you see him? She whispered. Mo looked out through the raindrops running down the pane and said nothing. Didn't you promise burglars would never break into our house because there's nothing here to steal? Whispered Maggie. He's not a burglar, replied Mo, but as he stepped back from the window, his face was so grave that Maggie's heart thudded faster than ever. Go back to bed, Maddie, he said. This visitor has come to see me. He left the room before Maggie could ask what kind of visitor, for goodness sake, turned up in the middle of the night. She followed him anxiously. As she crept down the corridor, she heard her father taking the chain off the front door, and when she reached the hall, she saw him standing in the open doorway. The night came in, dark and damp, and the rushing of the rain sounded louder and threatening. "Dustfinger?" called Mo into the darkness. "Is that you?" Dustfinger. What kind of a name was that? Maggie couldn't remember ever hearing it before, yet it sounded familiar, like a distant memory that wouldn't take shape properly. At first, all seemed still outside except for the rain falling, murmuring as if the night had found its voice. But then footsteps approached the house, and a man emerged from the darkness of the yard, his long coat so wet with rain that it clung to his legs. For a split second, as the stranger stepped into the light spilling out of the house, Maggie thought she saw a small furry head over his shoulder, snuffling as it looked out of his rucksack and then quickly disappearing back into it. Dustfinger wiped his wet face with his sleeve and offered Mo his hand. "How are you, Silvertongue?" he asked. "It's been a long time." Hesitantly, Mo took the outstretched hand. "A very long time," he said, looking past his visitor as if he expected to see another figure emerge from the night. "Come in, you'll catch your death. Maggie says you've been standing out there for some time." "Maggie? Ah, yes, of course." Dustfinger let Mo lead him into the house. He scrutinized Maggie so thoroughly that she felt quite embarrassed and didn't know where to look. In the end, she just stared back. "She's grown. You remember her?" "Of course." Maggie noticed that Mo double-locked the door. "How old is she now?" Dustfinger smiled at her. It was a strange smile. Maggie couldn't decide whether it was mocking, supercilious, or just awkward. She didn't smile back. 12, said Mo. 12? My word! Dustfinger pushed his dripping hair back from his forehead. It reached almost to his shoulders. Maggie wondered what color it was when it was dry. The stubble around his narrow-lipped mouth was gingery, like the fur of the stray cat Maggie sometimes fed with a saucer of milk outside the door. Well, we all know what they say about men with gingery beards. Ginger hair sprouted on his cheeks too, sparse as a boy's first beard, but not long enough to hide 3 long, pale scars. They made Dustfinger's face look as if it had been smashed and stuck back together again. 12, he repeated. Of course. She was... Let's see. She was 3 then, wasn't she? Mo nodded. Come on, I'll find you some dry clothes. Impatiently, as if he was suddenly in a hurry to hide the man from Maggie, he led his visitor across the hall. And Maggie, he said over his shoulder, you go back to sleep. Then, without another word, he closed his workshop door. And now we're almost done. This is how we get through long waiting times of shaders. I would say it's almost 20 minutes. Let's not destroy the place while you're at it, Nat. Still a little bit of time. We're doing it. Oh, it's by EA? Oh no, all my hopes just went down the drain. Oh, hello. Are we companions? I recognize 2. I'm getting excited again. Just a little bit bad that it's from EA. Press any button. Online serv. Why do I need online services? I don't think I need those. Yeah. I have no idea what that means. Always. Yeah, red is small. I think we are good to go. Yeah, this is probably fine. Let's get into it. I have never played a Dragon Age game.
I knew him as soulless, smart, thoughtful, love to hear himself talk.
Me.
But long ago, he had a different name. The Dreadwolf. Ancient elven god of lies, or heroic rebel against tyranny, depending on which story you believe.
Mm-hmm.
In his desperate fight against the corrupt elven gods, Solus imprisoned them, creating a veil that split our world from the raw magic of the Fade.
Sure,
He had
sure.
won. But the veil cost the elves everything. Their magic, their freedom, even their immortality. Now, Solus wants to tear down that veil and undo the damage he caused, even if that means our world has to burn.
Maybe. I don't really know.
Somebody's gotta stop him,
Oh.
and that's where you come in.
I think you're putting a lot of pressure on my shoulders already, mate. Ooh. Okay, do I have to be an elf? Okay, this is how we... Oh, there are only 4 things? Okay, fair enough. We can be an elf, Quinari, feared and envied for their size and strength. Some Quinari follow a strict philosophy from their homeland, while others joined different cultures generations ago. Or human, that's a bit boring. I played a dwarf in my other playthrough. Clever and tough in equal measure, dwarves cannot dream or wield magic, but possess a mysterious and ancient bond with the earth. I think I would like that again. I think we can get other people for magic, so we don't necessarily... Oh, I love the beard. Can we still... We can still change it. Why can't I just click things? Seems a bit... I actually kind of like you. I want to play as me. And we have pronouns, very progressive. Oh yeah, and we are Rook. Not Taft, but Rook. Yeah, I mean, for me this is good. A warrior. Warriors command the flow of the battlefield. Some lay waste with sword and shield, while others use a two-handed weapon to send enemies flying. The rogue's hallmarks are quick movement and reflexes. Whether wielding a bow or dual swords, they use powerful, precise strikes. And we can't do this one. A mage. Why can't we do that one? It's locked. Mages rain down fury with spells. Nah, I don't want... I want to fight. I think the rogue is going to be for me. Because I also like stealing. I mean, the clothes I really couldn't care less about. I just can immediately envision everyone screaming at me that I'm making the wrong choices. You'll live. Rook is a Grey Warden, an ancient military order sworn to battle Darkspawn and other monsters. The Wardens undergo secret unbreakable rites that grant them supernatural powers against the dark. Okay, deal increased damage versus Darkspawn. Base, yeah. Oh, this is my Oh, we get a surname. Hoi. Your faction choice influences Rook's backstory and conversation choices. Yes. Field jumpers. Ooh. Rook is a field jumper. This daring group explores ancient elven ruins in the Arflefen forest. Although founded by elves, they welcome anyone brave enough to face... Nah, we don't like elves as a dwarf. I feel like Shadow Dragon. I love dragons. Rook is the Shadow Dragon. This underground resistance opposes corrupt rulers and slavery in Tefnter. Coming from all walks of life, they are determined to bring justice. Yes! I think we are going to for this one. See, there is Laws of Fortune, an informal collection of explorers, hunters, and treasure seekers from Rivain. The rowdy lords are famed for both daring exploits and narrow escapes. Not for me. Rook is a Morn Watcher. This elite necromantic order explores the mysteries of life and death. It tends to be undead in Vaspo. Necromancy is very interesting, but I don't think it's for her. Rook is an Antivan crow, swift knives in the dark, the crows are ruthless. Nah. Dragon. I saw dragons and I was sold, to be completely honest. Backstory, breaker of bonds. Rook risked everything to liberate the enslaved people of Teventer, even knowing it would anchor the ruling elite. The founding Rook was adopted into a military family and joined the Shadow Dragons to fight from the shadows for change in Min Rathas. I know I'm probably mispronouncing that. While guarding a visiting dignitary who was investigating a slavery ring in the nearby city of Nessus, Rook concluded that the mission would fail without throwing caution to the wind. That's me. Alone, she sneaked the dignitary deep into Venatori-controlled zones and brought him back, along with the rescued slaves. These actions brought Rook to the Venatori's attention, and the Shadow Dragons decided to keep Rook out of sight. That's good for me. Oh, playstyle. Can we make it easy? Here for this. Yeah, I am definitely here for the story. And I have nothing to prove to any of you people. My first name is going to be my own Nathalie. A Merker. Nathalie Merker. I like that. Can we hear it?
I'm glad you're
here.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here.
I kind of like that on it too.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here.
It sounds a bit drunk.
I'm glad you're here. 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 I'm glad you're here.
I would like to hear some other voices actually.
Time to get to work.
Yeah, I like that voice. Lineage Dwarf, Woman, She, Her, Rogue, Shadow Dragons. Girly Pop, you are rocking it. Yes, please. Yes, I'm sure. I'm more than sure. I'm getting a little bit excited now. I was already excited to play another RPG, but... Right? I did get that phrasing right. I think. I know I'm an idiot. That's why people come to this channel. Oh no, don't make that fall, don't make that one. Stop touching it. And what does she do? She keeps touching it. I make it worse, just stop. I saved it. I think. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm messing with stamps and I really shouldn't be messing with stamps. I hope my computer can handle this game. Because it does look a little bit like it's going to take a little while. I feel like I have to do another dramatic reading if the loading screens are going to give... This is going to be a playthrough, people. I'm going to keep the things that I can make paper stars with close to me here. If by the end, before I have finished this newest paper star, it hasn't come on the game, then I'm going to show you my face of paper jars. And I'm not talking about my face, I'm talking about the flower vase. And it looks like we're going to get that, people. I'm almost done. No matter what dramatics are going to go on in the background, I'm going to show you my flower vase if I get it done. My flower vase is my face of paper stars. We have it done. This is a paper star. Wait. Look. Paper stars. It's a biggie. Maybe we should do a contest with that at some point. I hope that this is not going to be the entire game, just waiting for screens to load. Maybe it's because of the online stuff. I don't have to play with other people, right? I don't want to have to play with other people. Maybe I should do a counter for this game. How many paper stars we can make. I have another one done. The second one. Look, I have enough paper, and I have many more. I'm gonna do some white ones. The paper is a little bit stronger. At this point, I'm convinced that the game is just fucking with me, or it really wants me to see, making me some paper stars. I'm 42 minutes into the recording right now, and play-wise, I think we've done 3 or 4 minutes, maybe. This promises a whole darn lot. I swear, if the shaders now have to be reinstalled, then I swear I'm just going to post this episode on my YouTube channel with just me doing more dramatic readings. Because I have more books, believe you me. I have so many books that I could bore you to death with. Not that the stories are boring, I mean, I know that you're not here for dramatic reading. But I am going to keep this in, because I don't feel like this is my computer's fault. Maybe it is, it probably is. Here. Woohoo, there. Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro and Cornelia Funke. Again, I have a favorite author, okay? Nobody needs this. Look how glorious this is. Look, you can't see it because of the light. A little bit now. It's gorgeous, okay? Nobody needs those stupid sleeves or shaders. The prologue. It is said that long, long ago, there lived a princess in an underground realm, where neither lies nor pain exist, who dreamt of the human world. Princess Moana dreamt of a perfect blue sky and an infinite sea of clouds. She dreamt of the sun and the grass and the taste of rain. So, one day, the princess escaped her guards and came to our world. Soon, the sun erased all her memories, as she forgot who she was or where she came from. She wandered the earth, suffering cold, sickness and rain. And finally, she died. Not because she suffered rain, because she suffered pain. I read that wrong. Her father, the king, would not give up on searching for her, for he knew Moana's spirit to be immortal, and hoped that it one day would come back to him. In another body, at another time, perhaps in another place. He would wait, down to his last breath, until the end of time. Chapter 1. The Forest and the Fairy. There once was a forest in the north of Spain, so old that it could tell stories long past and forgotten by men. The trees anchored so deeply in the moss-covered soil, they laced the bones of the dead with their roots while their branches reached for the stars. So many things lost. The leaves were murmuring as 3 black cars came driving down the unpaved road that cut through fern and moss. But all things lost can be found again, the trees whispered. It was the year 1944, and the girl sitting in one of the cars, next to her pregnant mother, didn't understand what the trees whispered. Her name was Ophelia, and she knew everything about the pain of loss, although she was only 13 years old. Her father had died just a year ago, and Ophelia missed him so terribly that at times her heart felt like an empty box, with nothing but the echo of her pain in it. She often wondered whether her mother felt the same, but she couldn't find the answer in her pale face. As white as snow, as red as blood, as black as coal, Ophelia's father used to say when he looked at her mother, his voice soft with tenderness. You look so much like her, Ophelia. Lost. They had been driving for hours, farther and farther away from everything Ophelia knew. deeper and deeper into this never-ending forest, to meet the man her mother had chosen to be Ophelia's new father. Ophelia called him the wolf, as she didn't want to think of him, but even the trees seemed to whisper his name. The only piece of home Ophelia had been able to take with her were some of her books. She closed her fingers firmly around the one on her lap, caressing the cover. When she opened the book, the white pages were so bright against the shadows that filled the forest, and the words they offered her granted shelter and comfort. The letters were like footprints in the snow, a wide, white landscape untouched by pain, unharmed by memories too dark to keep, too sweet to let go of. "Why did you bring all these books, Ophelia? We'll be in the country." The car ride had peeled her mother's face even more. The car ride and the baby she was carrying. She grabbed the book from Ophelia's hands, and all the comforting words fell silent. Okay. "You are too old for fairy tales, Ophelia. You need to start looking at the world." Her mother's face was like a broken bell. Ophelia couldn't remember ever sounding like that when her father was still alive. "Oh, we'll be late," her mother sighed, pressing her handkerchief to her lips. "He will not like that." "He." She moaned, and Ophelia leaned forward to grab the driver's shoulder. "Stop!" she called. "Stop the car! Don't you see? My mother is sick!" The driver throttled the engine with a grunt. Wolves, that's what they were, these soldiers accompanying them. Men eating wolves. Her mother said fairy tales didn't have anything to do with the world, but Ophelia knew better. They had told her everything about it. She climbed out of the car while her mother stumbled to the side of the road and vomited into the ferns. They grew as densely between the trees as an ocean of feathery fronds, from which grey bark trunks emerged like creatures reaching up from a sunken world below. The two other cars had stopped as well, and the forest was swarming with grey uniforms. The trees did not like them. Ophelia could sense it. Serrano, the commanding officer, came to check on her mother. He was a tall, bulky man who talked too loudly and wore his uniform like a theatre costume. Her mother asked him for water in a broken bell voice, and Ophelia walked a little way down the unpaved road. "Water," the trees whispered. "Earth, sun." The fern fronds brushed Ophelia's dress like green fingers, and she lowered her gaze when she stepped on a stone. It was grey like the soldiers' uniforms, placed in the middle of the road as if someone had lost it there. Her mother was once again vomiting behind her. Why does it make women sick to bring children into the world? That's a very good question. Ophelia bent down and closed the fingers around the stone. Time had covered it in moss, but when Ophelia brushed it off, she saw it was flat and smooth, and that someone had carved an eye on it. A human eye. Ophelia looked around. All she could see were 3 withered stone columns, almost invisible among the high ferns. The grey rock from which they were carved was covered with strange concentric patterns, and the central column had an ancient corroded stone face gazing out into the forest. Ophelia couldn't resist. She stepped off the road and walked toward it, although her shoes were wet with dew after just a few steps, and thistles clung to her dress. The face was missing an eye, just like a puzzle missing a piece, waiting to be solved. Ophelia gripped the eye stone and stepped closer. Underneath the nose, chiseled with straight lines into the grey surface, a gaping mouth showed withered teeth. Ophelia stumbled back. Then between them, a winged body as thin as a twig stirred, pointing its long, quivering tentacles at her. Insect legs emerged from the mouth, and the creature, bigger than Ophelia's hand, hastily scuttled up the column. Once it reached the top, it raised its spindly front legs and started gesturing at her. It made Ophelia smile. It seemed like such a long time since she had last smiled. Her lips weren't used to it anymore. "Who are you?" she whispered. The creature waved its front legs once more and uttered a few melodic clicking sounds. Maybe it was a cricket. Did crickets look like this? Or was it a dragonfly? Ophelia wasn't sure. She had been raised in a city between walls built from stones that had neither eyes nor faces, nor gaping mouths. Ophelia! The creature spread its wings. Ophelia followed it with her eyes as it flew away. Her mother was standing just a few steps down the road, Officer Serrano by her side. "Look at your shoes," her mother chided with that soft resignation her voice held so often now. Ophelia looked down. Her damp shoes were covered with mud, but she still felt a smile on her lips. "I think I saw a fairy," she said. Yes, that's what the creature was. Ophelia was sure. But her mother wouldn't listen. Her name was Carmen Cardoso. She was 32 years old and already a widow, and she didn't remember how it felt to look at anything without despising it, without being afraid of it all. All she saw was a world that took what she loved and ground it to dust between its teeth. So as Carmen Cardoso loved her daughter, loved her very much, she had married again. This world was ruled by men. Her child didn't understand that yet. And only a man would be able to keep them both safe. Ophelia's mother didn't know it, but she also believed in a fairy tale. Carmen Cardoso believed the most dangerous tale of all. The one of the prince who would save her. The winged creature that had been waiting for Ophelia in the column's gaping mouth knew all of this. She knew many things, but she was not a fairy. At least not in the sense we like to think of them. Only a master knew her true name, for in the Magic Kingdom to know a name was to own the being that carried it. From the branch of a fir tree, she watched Ophelia and her mother get back into the car to continue their journey. She'd waited for this girl for a long time. This girl who had lost so much and would have This girl who had lost so much and would have to lose so much more to find what was rightfully hers. It wouldn't be easy to help her, but that was the task her master had given her, and he didn't take it lightly when his orders weren't followed. Oh no, he didn't. Deeper and deeper into the forest the cars drove, with the girl and the mother and the unborn child, and the creature Ophelia had named a fairy spread her insect wings, folded her 6 spindly legs and followed the caravan. That was chapter 1. We are 77 now, this is absolute bullshit. You know what? We'll continue to chapter 2. All the shapes evil takes. Evil seldom takes shape immediately. It is often little more than a whisper at first. A glance, a betrayal. But then it grows and takes root. Still invisible, unnoticed. Only fairy tales give evil a proper shape. The big bad wolves, the evil kings, the demons and devils. Ophelia knew that the man she would soon have to call father was evil. He had the smile of the Cyclops Oyankanu, and the cruelty of the monster... What is with these names? And the cruelty of the monsters Quekle and Duperu nesting in his dark eyes, creatures she had met in her fairy tale books. But her mother didn't see his true shape. People often grow blind when they get older, and maybe Carmen Cardoso didn't notice the wolfish smile, because Captain Vidal was handsome, and always impeccably dressed in his gala uniform, boots and gloves. Because she wished so badly for protection. Maybe her mother mistook his bloodlust for power and his brutality for strength. Captain Vidal looked at his pocket watch. The glass face was marred by a crack, but the hands underneath still held the time, and they indicated that the caravan was late. 15 minutes, muttered Vidal, who, like all monsters, like death, was always punctual. Yes, they were late. Just as Carmen had feared, when they finally arrived at the old mill Vidal had chosen to serve as his headquarters. Vidal hated the forest. He hated everything that didn't keep a proper order, and the trees were far too willing to hide the men he had come here to hunt. They thought the very darkness Vidal served and admired, and he had come to the old forest to break them. Oh yes, Ophelia's new father loved to break the bones of all those he considered weak, to spill their blood and give new order to their messy, miserable world. He greeted the caravan, smiling. Men like this just give you the ick, don't they? But Ophelia saw the contempt in his eyes as he welcomed them in the dusty yard where once upon a time peasants of the surrounding villages had delivered their grain to the miller. Her mother, though, smiled at him and allowed the wolf to touch her belly swollen with his child. She even gave in when he told her to sit in a wheelchair like a broken doll. Ophelia watched it all from the backseat of the car, despising the prospect of offering the wolf her hand as her mother had told her to. But finally she climbed out, to not leave her mother alone with him, pressing her books against her chest like a shield made from paper and words. Ophelia? The wolf crunched her name between his thin lips into something as broken as her mother, and stared at her extended left hand. It's the other hand, Ophelia, he said softly. Remember. He was wearing black leather gloves that croaked when he closed Ophelia's hand in a grip as fierce as a poacher's trap. Then he turned his back on her, as if he'd already forgotten about her. Mercedes, he called out to a woman who was helping the soldiers unload the car. Get their luggage. Mercedes was slim and pale. She had raven black hair and dark liquid eyes. Ophelia thought she looked like a princess pretending to be a peasant's daughter. Or perhaps an enchantress, for Ophelia wasn't sure which kind, good or evil. Mercedes and the men carried her mother's suitcases to the mill house. Ophelia thought it looked lost and sad, as if it missed being a mill grinding fresh grain. Now it was overrun with soldiers, swarming around its withered stone walls like locusts. Their tents and trucks were everywhere, filling the wide yard surrounded by stables, a barn and the mill itself. Grey uniforms, a sad old house, and a forest filled with shadows. Ophelia yearned to go home so badly she could barely breathe. But there was no home without her father. She felt tears welling up behind her eyes, when she suddenly noticed between sacks stacked a few feet away, a pair of wings catching the sunlight as though made of paper-thin glass. Can we finally start the game, please? Maybe. I'm just going to make this the prologue of the playthrough. Let's hope that the game actually works. You don't have to connect me to online, I can do without online. Yeah, can we continue and actually continue, please? My poor rook is just waiting somewhere for us. Maybe in the black veil of nothingness. I feel like the game is just kind of crashing or something. I don't know what it is. Because it's not a thing like, oh, I have to press something or I have to do something. I feel